was taking a look at this video here, and I've been watching some people's posts on it and such, and I decided to download it because there's a couple things in the audio that caught my attention I think are worth noting. So I extracted the audio, and I did a little bit of filtering here just to get rid of some of the white noise and to isolate their voices and kind of boost them up a little bit. So just in the beginning, the first thing that's worth noting is going to be right here in this first segment. I can't remember if it's here or the next section, but I'll just do them both so we can be sure. I'll just give you a listen here. I'm not sure how well it'll come through that, but if you'd like to do a simulation of the same thing, everything I'm using here is free. It's just Audacity, Lame, FFmpeg, or whatever. It's the basic plugins that you can get from the Audacity website, and I just downloaded it from YouTube, so I haven't done anything fancy that no one else can't do. So then I did a couple basic effects. I did a noise reduction, a amplification, some normalization, a compression, and some I think I dropped the tempo just slightly, just so I can hear them in a more slow talking voice, because they talk pretty quickly. So here's the first segment. Okay, it was this part here.
There's a whole fleet of them. What's on the SA?
So the first thing worth noting is right here in the second segment, he says there's a whole fleet of them. Now that tells me that this video that we were looking at, that has kind of gone viral online, more or less, he says there's a whole fleet of these. Now since it was really a quick kind of filtering, I accidentally cut out the first section, but you can hear it pretty clearly. In fact, that you could even hear clearly on the original video. But this first section of it, you can hear him actually state, or question, I can't remember which, is, actually here we can just pull it up and play it straight from the video. If I go in, oh, that's right, it should be right here. It's a drone, bro, is his first assumption. That's their first take on it, is it's a drone. And so they believe, at first, it is a fleet of drones. Now, while it's clearly not by some of the maneuvers it's doing, or at least one might think, while there are some pretty advanced drones out there at this point, we now have two interesting facts, that there's a, theoretically, what could be a drone, as well as a more than just the one that we see. So let's take a step here and listen to the next section.
My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots to the west. Oh, they do.
Now, interestingly here, he says they're going against the wind, which we know, and it's 120 knots to the west. Now, if we look at the footage when he says that, I'm going to kill the audio here so we don't have to hear it, because what I'm going to show you is visual. It most certainly does not say that it's 120 knots. It actually says that on their display, it shows, once that goes away, there we go, it is 241 knots, according to the website that explains everything here. It is not 120. Now, that might just be because they're quick to calculate it, and I'm not 100% sure because I'm no pilot, or I should say jet pilot. But we'll go ahead and step into the next part here. Now, this is where I actually found it important to do the filtering. Most of that you can catch from the original footage, but this is the part that kind of caught my attention and led me to be interested in filtering it. So I'll just give you a listen the first time. You can take from it what you hear. I'll play through it on loop just a couple times here. I believe it's this section.
That's not LNS though, is it?
I'll play it again. Actually, I'll play it again, but just slightly slower. We'll say at 70% speed. Okay, that's a little bit much. We'll pull it up to 80. One more time. What I hear from it, I originally thought was that's not an LNS, which I first assumed to be a model of a drone or an aircraft. As I listened to it a little bit more on standard playback speed, what I actually hear, and you guys say what you think you hear, but it sounds like he's saying, that is not our LNS, though, is it? As an LNS would be, of course, a three-letter abbreviation for, I don't know. One second.
Utility trucker.
Let me turn that down. It would be a three-letter abbreviation for, I don't know what, an LNS. That's kind of what I'm researching right now, but I figured I'd share it, so I'll play it once more and you can see if you hear it as well.
That's not LNS, though, is it?
And we'll go ahead and take a step into the next section here. I'll play through it and let it just continue on.
That's not LNS, though, is it? It's not. Well, the thing's on it's rotated.
So you hear a two-way conversation here. We hear, that's not our LNS, though, is it? He's questioning the other pilot. You know, what is that? He's obviously unsure. We know that. But I'm going to look into what an LNS is here, briefly. I'll pause the video and come back in just a moment. But first, we'll take a listen to the other pilot's response.
It's not. It's not. It's not.
I'm not going to lie, I'm not 100% sure what he says, because a number of reasons, but it's kind of hard to understand what he says. And he gets excited. Most of what he says is he kind of blurts into the radio, and unfortunately it spikes up, and I don't know that there's a way to undistort that too easily. Like I said, this is a pretty quick, thrown together cleanup job, but I'm not really sure that it is even possible to do it much better for this segment than it already is. So, the closest thing that I can take from it is I have no idea what that is. No, even when I listen to it a second time, that's not what it sounds like. So I don't know. And we hear it continues. Well, if there's a, so he was going to go on to something referencing his prior statement, most likely about our LNS. So give me just a moment, I will be right back. I'm going to take a look online if I can find any articles leading to what an LNS is for a military aircraft jet pilot. So I just recently found a article here from Reddit. It looks like someone else took it out, probably a previous pilot. We see the article is titled, "What does LNS refer to?" And so they're talking about this very footage. Obviously, I'm not the only one who's going to pick that out. Then he references the article and he's asking, oh, what is it? And the first guy here, Polka Dot Cupcake, says, I haven't listened to the recording, but I can't vouch for the context. L and S, N being an and, launch and steering. So it's basically a term used when they're referencing they have a lock on the contact with their radar. The Light Dog WK, which is not the guy who posted Alt Wolf. The poster of this article was Alt Wolf. Light Dog says, they're not saying that's not an LNS, though, is it? And that's an LNS, dude. That's not our LNS, though, is it? That is the oh, okay. So he's rewording the, or correcting the phrasing. He says that they are, in fact, saying that's our LNS, though, is it? So he makes a statement and then has to reconfirm, and the other pilot confirms, yes, in fact, that's the LNS, dude. Which is probably the part that I can't seem to filter out. They're trying a Q&A whether the track file they have on the LNS system is what they're looking at on the floor. So it's a very interesting take. But now we know. But it is worth noting that the pilots do originally assume it to be a drone, which with modern technology is technically possible, but highly unlikely.
What's going on, bro? There's a whole fleet of them. What's on the SA?
Yeah. So, interesting. I just thought I'd make a post about it. I don't tend to pay too close of attention to these types of things, but if I can't understand audio, I always love to go and try to figure out what the audio means, and I figured I'd just share what I found. Like, it turns out I didn't have to do all this. I could have just Googled it, but, you know, hey, never hurts. Just let me know what you think.